This episode's guest is OG. Randy McClelland has been skateboarding for a very long time. When he was growing up in the late 80s and early 90s, Randy was a sponsored skateboarder in Japan, and he's got the pictures to prove it. He talks a lot about how back then skateboarding was much different than it is today, without big name brands, Olympic level athletics, and social media that we have now. Also, unrelated to skateboarding, we go in depth on a project that Randy's working on through the hospital he's employed at. Part of the goal behind this project emphasizes curating the healing environment for patients. The healing environment is a really cool concept that I hadn't heard of before. The basic premise is around making an environment for patients that is more welcoming and pleasant. Things like making sure the walls have art on them and the windows have nice views are just a couple examples. We did our best to circle back to skateboarding, but even with the slight departure, I think you all are going to really enjoy this one. Thanks for tuning in. Hello and welcome to the Skating in Circles podcast. I'm here with Randy McClelland. Randy, how's it going today?
It's going great, Max. Thank you.
First question I got to ask: where are you? Where do you call home?
Home is the Pacific Northwest. Specifically, I'm in a little rural town called Nacelle, Washington, which is I just recently moved here. Actually, not too far from the Oregon side. So just across the river, the Columbia River, in the probably the southeastern portion of Pacific County, which is the southwestern county of Washington State. So
cool.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, Pacific Northwest. Is it pretty wet for you right now? It's snowing for me. Just all of a sudden started snowing in late March.
Yeah, it's pretty wet. Like it's not raining at the moment, but I expect to have some more rain today. And we've had a lot of rain this year. I mean, just a lot of rain. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that's going to change soon. So
yeah, you get like a couple months of just sunshine. It makes it all worth it.
Yeah, we call it fire and wasp season now out here. It's not even summer. It just turns and it gets dry as it can be. And you know, the whole area becomes like a tinderbox, basically, you know, so we got to be careful with campfires and stuff like that these days. But, you know, the rain in the spring is very welcome around here. So,
yeah, that's scary. That's pretty scary seeing that contrast.
Yeah.
So I got to ask you another question. What motivates you? How would you answer that question?
That's a good question. You know, I'm cheating a little bit because I've had a chance to listen to all your other podcast episodes. Mm-hmm. So I know this question's coming. And, you know, the older that I get, my perspective around that changes. And to be really honest with you, what motivates me these days is watching or hearing about anybody that are achieving their goals in life. You know, whether that's your skate goal of hitting 200, 250, 300, or buying a house, or, you know, my son recently started working with this pretty famous chef down in Eugene, Oregon. And, you know, he's been trying so long to do that. And all those things inspire me, you know, to see people be successful, to reach their goals and things like that, you know. Mm-hmm. So that's very inspiring to me these days.
Yeah, I can understand that. You know, you see someone put a lot of effort into something. It's like consistency, right? Over time. Mm-hmm. It's just like an inspiring thing to see, and like it gets you out the door.
Commitment, right? Like people that are just committed to achieving their goals. So that's just so inspiring. You know, and then all the tears and joys that come with it, right? I mean, you know, they're not easy.
So you have an interesting history with skateboarding. When was your first time on a skateboard? You kind of told me about this, but I think out of all the guests, you've been skateboarding the longest. So let's hear.
Really?
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely not the best at it, I'm sure. But yeah, so my first skateboard, I would say it was probably Christmas of 1974 or 1975.
Wow.
One of those years. And I remember as a little kid, my parents got me one of those plastic banana boards, right? And I was just like, wow, this is cool, right? And I remember learning how to skateboard in my hallway in my house in South Florida. And I was, I mean, we had this tile floor, and I would just go around the corner and go up and down the hallway until I learned how to skate. Then I took it outside, and I mean, like it didn't take me too long to. I was on this little plastic banana board, and I was doing 180s and tic tacs and stuff like that, and so I've been on a board ever since.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you lived in Japan for a while.
I lived in Japan from 1984 to 1989, and I did go back and I visited there again in 1991, I believe. 2 years later, I went back and I was there for about 6 months working and skating.
And weren't you sponsored by a company out there?
Yeah, there was a company called Max Motion out by Ueno, Tokyo, and Max Motion doesn't exist, but the two brothers started a company, and it's called Roots, Roots, Roots. So it kind of evolved into that. But yeah, I was a sponsored skater for a couple of those years. I think it was like 1986 to 88 from Max Motion. It's the Akiyama brothers, Katsu and Akiyama. They're like, Aki's like the godfather of skateboarding in Japan. He's probably, I think he's nearing 70, and he's still hitting the half pipes and stuff like that. I mean, it's just cool. Beautiful to watch,
That's awesome. Did you ever skate with any pros or anything?
Yeah. So one of the, I guess you call it the benefits of being a sponsored skater. Now I got to tell you something. Back then, I made zero money. Like it was absolutely the only real benefit that I had was I never had to pay for my decks. Right. Like decks, trucks, wheels, stuff like that. Max Motion gave it all to me. And all I had to do was show up to the All Japan Skateboarding Association events. And at times, like they'd give me a ride if it was somewhere a couple hours outside the city and that kind of thing. They gave me transportation, but I didn't make any money. But I got to go to some cool events. And one of the cool things about being with Max Motion at the time was, I was an American skater. I mean, I consider myself an Asian American. My mother's Japanese. So I knew enough Japanese while I lived there to get around and be, everything was pretty easy as far as getting around the city. And so some of these companies would come over with a couple of skaters, and they'd reach out to, Max Motion had a reputation of being the, like the cool kind of skate shop, right? The surfer based, kind of on the outskirts of Tokyo. And they would call me and say, hey, can you skateboard? We have there's some people from Santa Cruz, that was the one that came out frequently. And they'd call me up and say, can you meet these guys and take them around the city? They want to take some photos. They want to skate some spots and that kind of thing. One of them, and I'd like to say his name because he was a beautiful, beautiful man, was Bruno Peters. And I'm not even sure who he skated for. I'd have to look that up again. But he took a lot of photos. He was a photographer as well too, but he just passed away recently. And so he was a great guy. And one time some people from the Bones Brigade came out, and that was
that's so cool.
I'll tell you, they were rumored to be going out to the skate park called Kiyose. And me and my buddies, we were all at school at the time. And so like all of us were like trying to get our parents to call the school to to say, hey, can you let Randy go to an appointment, that kind of thing. And then the school just got together and they called all of us in. There's like 6 of us that were all our skate friends and whatever at the American school in Japan. And the principal was just like, you guys can all just go. We know what's going on. Just go. And so we went out there to Kyoto Skate Park, and we saw we saw and got to skate with some of the members from the Bones Brigade. So it was pretty cool. Tony Hawk was there. And then there was a lot of people there too. But we also got to skate with a small group of them at Shibuya, or Shibuya Banks. We called it Shibuya Banks. It's the one photo where you see me doing like a front side grind.
Oh yeah.
That's Shibuya Banks. And we skated with some of them out there as well too. So that was cool. I got to see a lot of, like, back then there were some pro skaters that came out, like Hosoi came out. And I got to watch him skate, which was cool. And then just a barrage of, like, I don't even remember their names, right? But they came out, and they were guys from various different parts of the world. Actually, we had some people from Europe come out too, but they'd come out and we'd just skate, and it was a blast. And it's funny because today you would, if you didn't have photos to back this stuff up, it's like no one believe you, like this even happened. But we didn't have cameras, man. Like I would have had to borrow my father's like actual camera and stuff like that, but it's just one of those things you don't think about, right? Like you're at school and you hear a rumor, however that started, I don't know, that Pal Peralta team's going to be at the Kyoto Park. You didn't have your camera with you. You just went and did your thing. So, but yeah, it was fun. It was a total blast doing all that. And Mike Valley was another guy that I got to see in 91 and skate a little bit with him and stuff. And that was fun as well.
Wow. So you got to meet a lot of people back before skateboarding was really like what it is today, obviously, with all the big sponsors, right? For the professional skateboarders, things like Monster and like, big brand companies now.
Yeah, it was back then in the mid to late 80s. I mean, I think vert was still pretty popular. Street skating was certainly emerging at the time. And that's primarily what I did, when I was in Tokyo, was just pushed your board. And I mean, there's like the whole city was a canvas there. And if you're a street skater, you couldn't be anywhere, more exciting than Tokyo to push your board around and, and do things like that. It's just a whole lot of fun. So I primarily was doing street skating, and that's when street skating was getting really popular. And you started seeing, people riding vertical walls and just, stuff like that. And Thrasher magazine was like our Bible back then, and we get a copy of it, and that's all we had, right? We didn't have internet. We didn't have like all access to all these videos and footage. You'd see Thrasher magazine, you're like, holy cow, I got to try that trick. We got to try this. And we'd go out and, have yourself a good time out on your board anywhere, just flowing through the city. It was just, what a blast that was.
It is kind of wild to think about that. Like your only relationship with like someone, say like kickflipping like 4 stairs, right? Or some shit like that, like is in a picture you've seen, or like, so like how you're going to have to go out and like figure out how it's done, like how you would do it, right? Having a video of someone do something before you do it makes it so much easier.
I have to say real quick that I don't believe the kickflip was invented yet back in the late 80s. I don't think it was. I could be wrong. Maybe like in freestyle, like Rodney Mullen or something. But we certainly weren't doing that on our fishtail boards that we had back then. I mean, I don't even think I saw my first double kick board, the nose and the tail, until the early 90s. Like, I think that was the first time I saw one of those. I was like, holy cow, look at this. Skateboarding has evolved.
Yeah. I remember hearing in like some skate video, it was like in the mid 90s was when they finally had a board. The nose was bigger than the tail, and it was for like flip tricks and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that's cool. There is someone else you didn't mention that I know you've skated with. And can you tell the story there? Is it a good story? I don't know.
It's a good story. Yeah. This definitely falls into the category of, a photo or it didn't happen, but whatever. I got called once from Max Motion. Kato Akiyama called me and asked me if I'd go out to Yoyogi Park. Yoyogi Park is like the equivalent of Central Park, probably in New York City. And you go out there, and it was on Sundays they used to close the road down, and we'd put up skateboard ramps and stuff in the street. It'd just have a blast. Nearby there was this, and I forget the Japanese word for it, but it was basically like a theater. An outdoor theater with the stage and all that stuff. And they asked me to meet this guy out there who wanted to learn how to do a skateboard trick for a movie. And when we got out there, I mean, he probably said his name on the phone call, but anyway, to make a long story short, it was Jackie Chan. And I had no idea who the guy was. Like, it was really no big deal to me. It was no big deal. And I went out there, and there was a few of us that went out there to skate with him. And he wanted to learn how to do, I guess we called it an acid drop, which is basically just going off of a stage, going off of 4 foot high, 5 foot high drop, from there onto your board on the ground. Nowadays, guys are doing like kick flips and stuff off of this, and ollieing 3 feet in the air before they do that. Well, back then it was just simply you're skating and you would maybe do a light ollie and then you'd land 4 or 5 feet down onto the ground. Anyways, he wanted to learn how to do that, and he really didn't know how to skateboard. But the legend is he can pretty much do any stunt on his own, right? I mean, so he picked this up pretty quickly, and did his acid drop or whatever. And then there is a movie. There's one of those Hong Kong movies, I think, from the late 80s sometime, that does show him doing that. Like he's escaping from some bad guys on a skateboard, and
That's
he did
so
this
cool.
acid drop out of a warehouse, and that was it. And it was pretty cool, and I remember going home and telling my mom, who I said, and this is to me the funny part, and my mom's Japanese, and I told her I skateboarded with Jackie Chan. And she goes, "Uso," and "Uso" means you lie. Right? And she knew who he was. He was he was a famous movie star already at that time in Hong Kong. So before he got really popular in the United States and stuff like that. So it was a blast.
Wow.
I just, it was a good time of my life
so cool.
to do that.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need pictures, right? Like, I believe you.
Oh yeah, I know. It's just fun, like how we are today. Everything's got to be on film or something.
I feel so bad for that. Like, it must have been so much easier to be a famous person back then, because like people weren't just always taking pictures of you. Yeah, they might like come up to you and stuff, but.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll since we're on the topic real quick, I'll just throw out there. This is my brag. There was a band called Bananarama. I don't know if you've heard of them, but they were like this, a couple of women, like 3 women, and they played like kind of like disco music, kind of. They were at this, I mean, when I lived in Japan in high school, you just go in the bars and clubs. I mean, it's like the honor system there. Showing up at a club, they just assumed you were of age and they let you in and stuff like that. And I went to this club called Lexington Queen in a town called Roppongi, and Bananarama was there, and they were dancing. And I went out there and I danced with all three of them, for a song. It was pretty cool. And at that same club at a different time, Sylvester Stallone was there, so I got to see him. And then at another bar called Henry Africa, I ran into Joe Montana. It was like 1989. Wow. He was there. And then the best story yet, at the Hard Rock Cafe, one of my best friends out there almost got into a fist fight with Richard Marx. And I don't know if you've heard of Richard Marx.
I don't think I know who Richard Marx is.
Some guy. I mean, you can look him up and whatever. He's a rock singer kind of thing and whatever. But he's a cool guy. Like I like who he is today. But it was just funny, some of these stories that we had back in the day. So
yeah, that's really cool. Famous football players, famous actors.
Yeah,
just in the right place, I guess. See it all happen. That's so cool. So I've talked about this kind of thing in a few other episodes where it's like, why not add a fundraising effort to your long distance skate adventure, right? Because like it's a common thing, right? Go around, tell people you're doing this thing. How like for every mile I skate, you donate $1 or a cent or whatever, and it all adds up. So you've done a few different ones of these at a few different types of events. Do you want to break it down?
Yeah, I'll talk about the one I did in 2023. 2023, right? That's last year. Yeah. I went down there and I'll just say the result. I raised $15,000 for I'm skateboarding. I was skating, pushing miles for a project called Build CMH. It's an expansion project that I happen to be working on. It's my day job. One of the things that I'm very passionate about is the healing environment, and bringing in and working with like local community artists, regional artists, to make a facility, enhance the facility in a positive way through art. Mm-hmm. And art always has the smallest budget on all these projects, artwork, or people think like, well, we'll just ask an artist to donate a piece or something. And it really, that's not how we should be, viewing the lens of art in the healing environment, right? Through like expectations like that. So, I wanted to make sure that, $15,000 for a project of that size is a drop in the bucket, but I wanted to go out there and kind of bring awareness to, the need to work with or to bring art into a healing environment, which our organization is very supportive of, but also to bring some light, on the fact that, and some positivity on our willingness to work professionally with artists, and pay them a meaningful, whatever, stipend or whatever. We want to pay you for your work. We don't want to like say, hey, give us a 75% discount or things like that. So I started, and this was like my third time I did a fundraiser for Columbia Memorial. Well, at the Miami Ultra, second time for the hospital. And then I also did 2 for the Assistance League. It's an organization that helps kids.
Oh, cool.
But anyway, I decided like back in, it was probably starting in October, they did a video, the hospital did a video of me out there skating and kind of, interviewing me a little bit on this whole thing. You can probably find it. It's on YouTube and stuff like that if you really wanted to. I started to just go out and have conversations with people. And that's the thing that I believe in that really makes a fundraising effort more meaningful. Mm-hmm. I very, very rarely will I ever support like, somebody that just has a link on their, or, they post and say, please donate to this cause, or whatever. I very rarely will support things like that. I believe that, it happens through conversations and dialogue and building relationships and stuff like that. Because I'll tell you, I do not like asking people for money. It's a very uncomfortable place for me to be. I just, I put myself out there, and I ask different groups to, hey, can I attend your next staff meeting, or, can I have 5 minutes and just tell everybody what I'm doing? I have spoken to people in the community as well too, and then it's a good time to hit your friends and family up too, and just say, hey, look, can you help me out and whatever. I was having some fun, with this project. I'm working with architect firm, and I'm also working with a big general contracting firm, and I told both of my counterparts on both sides. I said, yeah, I'm like, can you support me? Like can you do a pledge of $1 a mile, or however many dollars you want to pledge? You can have fun and say, like, I want to know who truly supports this project, right? Like who's gonna donate the most per mile. So they were having the competition with each other. And between the two groups, one of them ended up being like $35 a mile, and then the other one was $27 a mile. And so, like, if you can imagine that, like, every time I skateboard, I pushed a lap around on the track at Homestead.
Yeah.
Just those two organizations, I mean, I was making, what was it? Well, $55 a month. And that was a really successful fundraiser, because at the end of the day, it ended up being like $115 a mile that I landed at the end. It motivated me to keep going. In that 2023, that Miami Ultra was a hot one. That's kind of my philosophy on the fundraiser. You just go out there and talk to people and get pledges and things like that. And don't hide behind a link. The link isn't going to serve you much. Get out there and say something, or at least do a video of yourself kind of talking to people, online, and, just say, hey, reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you. And then that personalized thank you. I mean, I made ceramic mugs for people that donated,
it's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, I was like, here, thank you. Here's a mug that I made, to give to you. So, yeah.
Right. Cause you were going to skate the miles anyway. So like,
yeah,
the money they donated is really just a bonus, for the fundraiser. So your technique was go around and get pledges from people and organizations, and you just kind of racked up a certain amount of money per mile you were going to skate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the framework was like 50 cents a mile, $1 a mile, $2 a mile. And then, I mean, the hospital foundation did set up a webpage for people to go to. So like I can say, all right, I'm going to send you the link. I got your pledge. Now, can you go ahead and fill out this information? And so the foundation can keep track of it. That was cool. Other times I just had my phone, and I'd open up Notepad or whatever, and I'd type in max $1 a mile. And that was it. It doesn't have to be, doesn't have to be, hard. Yeah, that was a framework. And then some people, one lady did $15 a mile. So she contacted the foundation and said, yeah, put me down for $15 a mile.
Oh, wow.
It was pretty cool. It was cool.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. So you can you can do it any number of ways. One thing I also wanted to ask was, you mentioned the healing environment, and I kind of maybe want to go back. Can you explain that more? Like, what does that mean exactly?
So Columbia Memorial Hospital is a gold certified plane tree organization, and they have certain criteria to have that certification. And one of them is around the healing environment. And so if you think about going into a big hospital, and I think even today people are still experiencing that institutional feeling of going into a hospital with white walls and these stale tile floors or something like that.
Yeah,
or
sure.
Going into some clinics that might have wood paneling on the walls and things like that. Just really stale, kind of outdated environments. And so like if you imagine going, and even the healing environment includes architectural design as well too. So like lots of natural light, in some cases views, like we want to offer views of the river for people. But if you can imagine having to come into a place and sit in a chair and get 5-6 hours of chemotherapy, and you're in this really institutional type environment, it doesn't help your healing at all. So the healing environment includes artwork, it includes light, natural light, it includes certain color palettes, certain types of finishes. So when you go into a facility like ours, it really starts to look like, in a way, home, right? Or a place that you're very comfortable with, and it's soothing and it's quiet and there's nice things to look at and it's warm. There might be a gas fireplace. We have gas fireplaces in our organization in certain places, and so things like that. It's a very broad. I mean, healing environment is a description of something that's very broad, but something that we take a lot of pride in. Me pushing a longboard for however many hours was in support of one component of the healing environment, which is artwork.
Okay. And you were raising money to essentially like purchase or pay the artists for their work, really.
Yeah. There's another word that I describe, these fundraising. It's or a phrase, and I call it recycling my energy. So like you pretty much said it a second ago. But if I'm going to go out there and push a longboard for 24 hours, why not? Why not do something with it and recycle that energy and bring something back to my community? I mean, I've said this before, I think that, can you imagine the power of the skate community if we all got behind one cause, maybe? Like if all of us out there, or maybe we all got behind many, individual causes or whatever. Can you imagine the impact of that we can make as a skateboard community if we, got rallied behind something? And I mean, like how many miles, add all the miles up to everybody, right? And I mean, it'd be astronomical. We can build a skate park somewhere, or, for kids, or we can do, there's a lot of potential I think we have.
There's a ton of potential there. When you think about the amount of total miles skated at some of these events, and the fact that you were able to rack up over $100 per mile. Yeah, there's a lot of potential there for sure. So I think it's nice that you shared your framework for how to do that. So, it seems to have worked for you. You've done it multiple times, not just in 2023. You mentioned you did a few others before that. So like, if people need advice and that kind of thing, could they reach out to you, I guess?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Cool.
I'll share my contact at the end or whatever.
Yeah. So. Awesome. Yeah. I think that'd be great. It seems like you say, like it really is that simple. That doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't take any effort, right? It takes time out of your day. You got to kind of go back to what you were saying about what motivates you, right? It's a commitment to something. So, but it's rewarding, I imagine too.
Yeah. The other aspect of it too is that it kind of keeps me accountable also for my commitment. When I say I'm going to go out there, basically when I say I'm going to go out there to the Miami Ultra, I mean, I was signed up this year. I just couldn't make it. I couldn't go.
Right.
But maybe if I put myself out there a little bit more, I would have kept myself accountable to actually show up, but I mean, I won't go into details, but I had a rough end of 2023 into 24. I just couldn't make it to Miami this year, but I am committed to going, in 2025. I have just a little bit more money I want to raise because I want to hit this $25,000 mark. Anyway, that's my goal. I just said it on air too. So, it's holding yourself kind of accountable to go to these events. So,
yeah. You've always told me once you get the plane ticket, that's it. That's the final.
And even these days, like they're loosening up their rules around like getting your money back on plane tickets and stuff like that. We did have, my wife and I had plane tickets to Miami for was it last month?
Yeah, just about.
But we bought it through miles. We had a bunch of
Oh,
miles
nice.
in our account, and luckily we got it back. I mean, it was like we
Oh,
got our
cool.
miles credited back to her account, my wife's account. So no harm, no foul there, you know. But
That's great.
you are right. You get that plane ticket in the past skate events I go to, you know, like La Diga or Minnesota. That was always the first thing that I did. Okay, register plane tickets, just get them, so that you don't change your mind. You don't because you know registration at the end of the day. I mean, $100 is a lot of money to many of us.
Yep.
But it's not the end of the world, right? If you back out of a registration, but when you bought $500 plane tickets, you know, I mean, that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
To back out of.
And then if you get the hotel, it's like, okay,
yeah.
there's no going back.
Yeah.
Now. It's meant to be fun too, you know. It's always fun.
They are a blast.
You know.
Yeah.
So that's great to hear. You're going to be back in 2025. It sounds like you've been super busy. Honestly, you said you just built a kiln. You want to tell me about that? Because you're an artist yourself, right? You do a lot of pottery.
Yes.
You've done some prints on skateboards and various other things. So let's first talk about the kiln. All right. First question, I guess. Does this make you a potter, or is there something else to describe someone who does pottery?
I mean, a potter's fine. We call ourselves muddies too. Muddies. Potters. You know, at the end of the day, like, you know, professionally, like I would just say that my goal is to become a full-time artist. And you know, I'm close to that goal, and we'll talk about that a little later. But yeah, potter. I've been doing pottery for since 1985. I've been doing pottery with just a couple. I've got a couple of, you know, skips and, you know, access to a kiln and a studio and that kind of thing can limit somebody's ability to make pottery, of course. Right. So depending on where I was in life, I've had a couple of years where I didn't touch clay, but always kind of got back into it, you know, when I had access and things like that.
So yeah, you mentioned like to do pottery, you need a kiln, which is this giant oven, right? Essentially.
Yeah.
How did that go? You just finished building it, or is it good to go? Like
it's good to go. So this has been a goal for a long time. Is a goal, a vision since probably 4 years ago, 4 to 5 years ago. I was like, you know, I'm going to build my own kiln somewhere. And this is a wood fire kiln. So if you look at my Instagram page, you'll see photos of the kiln.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's pretty big. It's the wear chamber is around 35 or so, 37, 38 cubic feet of space. So it's pretty big size. And you know, you got to crawl in to just load it even and go from there. Sort of goes to like what motivates me, right? Like watching people realize their goals in life and things like that. I couldn't build this kiln where I was living on the Oregon coast, right? Because like my neighbor is right next to me, and you know, it's just not. You want to be in more of a secluded environment and that kind of thing. And there's environmental reasons, and you know, maybe even like safety reasons, if you really say it. You know, this is like it's a kiln, and it gets up to around 2,400 degrees Fahrenheit at the height of the firing, and I fire with wood. And so at the height of the firing, when everything is hot and melting inside, you know, there's a flame that kicks out of that chimney, you know, a good, you know, 5-6 feet in the air.
Wow.
And, you know, it's, you know, neighbors may not like to see that, you know, in close proximity. So, and anyway, and I like the seclusion. I like being out in the woods. So my wife and I found a property out in Southwest Washington, not too far from where we lived before. Back in 2021, and we felt like we got lucky. It was very excluded. We're excluded from people really being out here. I mean, we got neighbors, but you can't even see them because they're far enough away. and lots of trees and all that stuff. So bought the property, and I couldn't get the kiln started until we built a house, and I built my studio out here. And so that took a long time. I mean, that took from the time we bought the property to the time we moved in, it was 2 years and 3 months. Okay. And just give perspective, people who are interested in building a house, it's not a quick process. And I moved in, my wife and I moved in at the end of September.
Nice.
Of last year, and I immediately got started on building the pavilion or the concrete pad. I got help getting that poured, and then built the pavilion, which was the structure to keep the kiln dry, right? I mean, you can't just let the Pacific Northwest rain, dump on it all year round. And so built the pavilion, and once that roof was up, I started laying brick. And it took a couple of months. It took like really every minute. I wasn't at work. I mean, I was out there cutting brick and laying brick and, mortaring stuff in and going from there. And we basically got the kiln done on New Year's Day. My goal was to have it done last year, but I got the chimney done on New Year's Day. And then it was all just small little cosmetic stuff. I had to build the door and all that stuff, but I did the test firing in February, and I plan to do my next firing on May 10th in a little while. So I'm gearing up towards that. This is almost starting to sound like an art show and not a skateboard.
Honestly, I was thinking about that. I have a lot of notes and they're all like art related, but I think that's okay. It's all relative.
I'm a skater at heart. Through all of this that I'm doing, I'm a skater at heart. And that was, just my drive to get this kiln done and kind of get moving on this very important part of my life. That was one of the reasons why I didn't make it to Miami. I had to follow through with this and get things going. And I have a couple of big exhibitions this year that I'm working towards also. So I just had to focus all my efforts on this. And not to mention where I live now, Max, it's like pavement is pretty far away from my house. So like I can't just go out of my house and like start skating. I mean, I live on a dirt road basically, and anyway, it's all cool. So yeah, that was the kiln.
You used to live right by Fort Stevens Park in Oregon, right?
Yeah.
And Fort Stevens Park was where we used to camp in between. There were 2 skate events that happened out there. It was the Push in the Woods in Portland, and then Centennial up in Arlington, Washington. So in between was Fort Stevens Park.
Yeah.
And we would love staying there. And I remember the first year we met you, we were just skating around because there were all these trails there. And you were like, I live like 2 minutes away. Like, and you came out and met us. That was so cool.
I remember, can I talk about this?
Yeah.
Is this a good lead into that? So prior to you guys going down there, we were all up at Centennial, right? Mm-hmm. And that was Centennial, man. That was a blast of an event. I mean, really just sad to have seen that go. Not to mention it's also a regional event for me. So that was the first time I ever went on a skateboard event, and that was 2016. I'm pretty sure it was 2016. I went to Centennial. I didn't even know this was a thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like I was pushing my board around, around Fort Stevens where I lived and going all over the place. And I was like, I wonder, if this is a thing, right? Because like I was out there doing 15 miles. And I thought 15 miles was just insane. I was like, man, I'm like pushing more than anybody out there, right? Like you think, because I didn't know anything about it. And I started looking up long distance skateboarding. And I don't know how this happened, but I found the Centennial event. And I was like, holy cow, man. Like, holy shit, there's an actual long distance skateboarding push race.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to kill it. I'm like, I'm just going to dominate, this is great. And so I signed up for it. And I'll tell you, I was humbled like like even before the race started, I was like looking at all these decks and I'm like seeing, hearing things, right? Like 300 miles and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, I'm a little out. Then I thought I was out of my league. I met your brother. Like he was the first guy that was there. He was in the parking lot and I just said, hey, can you help me out? Can you take a quick photo? I can send this to my girlfriend. And he took a photo of me and I looked him up on Facebook and I found him. And then I went, and that was the kickoff to the that first race, which is I think it was like an 8.5 mile race,
the
first
race.
event. And so I go there to the race, and they said, whatever, ready, set, go. And I watch all these people just smoke me right out of the gate, and I'm like, holy cow, these guys are fast. And but when I see that, I was super motivated. I was like, wow, I want to skate faster. I want to go faster and faster. I was on a longboard Larry double drop with Paris trucks, and I don't even know what wheels I had. It was probably like some pair of soft wheels of some kind. I definitely didn't even know about like seismic wheels and all that stuff, DT trucks and things like that. And just pushed, had a blast, probably finished in the middle of the pack. And I was really proud of that. And then, so I go back home and I'm like, wow, this was great. I just did a skateboard event and whatever. And then I saw your brother's post on Facebook and I'm like, holy shit, it's right here. You guys are right in my backyard pretty much. And I reached out and it was you, Kyle Yan, and Will. And I met up. I remember I brought you guys a load of firewood, and I was like, "Here's some firewood to get you through your trip."
You brought us a lot of. It wasn't just like one bundle. It was like a full truckload. Like you gave us.
I mean, you figure you gotta burn some wood, right?
It was awesome. It was so clutch.
So and then it was there where I remember we went skating, and then Kyle was the one who told me about Miami.
Oh.
And I was intrigued. I was like, you guys were heading to, I think the, what's it called? The Push in the Woods in Portland. I think you were heading there.
Yeah.
That end.
Yeah. Push in the Woods.
Kyle told me about Miami and I looked it up and I'm like, I can't believe this. Like, I can't believe this is a thing, And then 2000, I remember January of 2017, I went to the Miami Ultra, and I think I skated 116 miles and I thought it was phenomenal.
You crushed it. That was your first time too.
But then like you're seeing these other guys, man, do 250. I don't remember if anybody hit 300 that year, but it just blew my mind. And I was completely hooked ever since, like that's when I started to really look at, all right, what else is out there? Because I want to do it all. Like I want to do whatever is available. And then I heard of Ladiga. Then all you guys are talking about how Ladiga is like the hardest race in the world, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I got to do that. I want to be able to say that I finished, like a brutal race like that. Mm-hmm. And then, a few years later. Cali started the that Skate Central Lakes, which that one was brutal too. I mean, it was just a brutal event, but they're all just fun. They're all blast. And that's where, the skate family really tightens up in your life. We're all over the world, but when we're together, we're friends and we have one thing in common. We all finished an event together or we did something together, so yeah.
Absolutely.
Like the events that unfold, by chance, like just meeting your brother.
Yeah.
And then following him on Facebook, just being able to that one chance connection where I was going through and I'm like, wow, here's a couple of guys that I just went to Centennial Skate Fest with. You guys became good friends.
Yeah.
Skate community, 100%.
That's an interesting thing to point out. Through just reaching out and being like, hey, I'm down the road, it fostered like this really cool relationship, right? Where we ended up skating all weekend.
Yeah.
Like in an increasingly disconnected world we live in, right? Where people like eat by themselves for dinner, right? And like don't want to go out as much, right? Or like making a connection like that is harder now, I feel like, right? And 2017 is 7 years ago. Like things were a little different back then, and like I don't know, and not to get like too deep, but I think people could do with more of that, just like
I agree, Max.
don't be afraid to like make friends with someone, and that's what community does for us, right? It enables you to just like connect with people because you both went to Ultraskate, because you both went to La Diga or whatever,
Yeah, we had the push relay that just happened not too long ago last year. They ended their route. The team ended their route down in Newport, Oregon, which is a couple hours down the coast from where I was living at the time. And I was expecting the full team, but Rick went home, and then the name's escaping me. But Miles and Andy.
Miles, yeah, and Paul.
Yeah. So Paul went back home, and then Rick Stubblefield went back home. But Miles and Andy were down there, and they wanted to hang out for a couple days or whatever. So I drove down there and I picked that team up. I picked the crew up, just those two guys, and went back to Warrenton to my house. And they crashed with me, and we went clam digging, and we drank plenty of beers, and it was just a blast.
Yeah.
Even a couple hours away is worth kind of the effort on reconnecting with the skate family. Remember, I had a chance encounter with you and Will up in Maine, where of all places, my family had a family reunion there in whatever that town was. I forget what it was called, but and then you guys were just up the road from where I was at. And so my kid and I, we went up to your house, and we borrowed your boards, and we went pushing around
That's right.
your neighborhood and stuff. I mean, what a blast. I mean, you wouldn't know that unless you like connect with people and you stay in touch with people. I think I don't want to miss some of these great chance encounters. I'm always like saying something too, like, hey, if you're in Portland, please look me up. Or if you go to Seattle, please look me up, and love to do something with you.
Yeah. Like I say that as like when people come to Maine, or if they're ever thinking about coming to Maine, I'm like, you better let me know, right? Because I'll I'll drive out to meet you and whatnot. It's important.
Yeah, like what you did with Callie when she skated through.
She was literally right down the street too. Like there was no, I was stoked. We skated like 20 miles together. That was so much fun. I forgot what it was like to skate with people. It had been a while. Like I was training a lot for Ultraskate at that time, and yeah, that's always refreshing. Group skates are the best.
Yeah,
it's not like an event or anything. Even it's just like a bunch of people meeting up on a trail for like a long day of just skating. Like that can be really fun.
It is. Yeah.
Do you have any fun stories about like La Diga or anything like that you want to tell?
Well, I'll tell you. Yeah, you've heard some of them too. I think I'll tell you, Chief La Diga has always been the most interesting. Well, let me say it real quick. I've only done it twice, right? And the first year I did it, I didn't do day 3 because of a foot injury. But I went back the next year and I finished it.
Do you remember? Do you remember what the weather was? Do you remember that? You and I were rooming together, and I remember you took a picture of the weather forecast. Do you remember what it said?
It was the most brutal rain ever on one of those days, but then it was just hot and normal on the others. But yeah, the weather definitely, you go through some different weather systems on the Chief La Diga Trail. But I had, one year, I love Callie. She's a great friend of mine, and she's also someone that motivates me too. When I see her finish her goals and everything like that. But the one that kind of a runner-up to, it was a runner-up to the trail. What they call it, the Trail Award. Trail, something
trail
like that.
Trail Story.
Yeah, and I think my story was runner up that year. It got at least acknowledged. It was before the event started, and I think it was the first time I met Callie. I mean, she was there, and she had all these gym wraps, right? Like these bandanas,
Oh, yeah.
these bandanas that you put
Oh,
on your head and
yeah.
stuff like that. And then she's like just handing them out to everybody. And I'm like, oh, cool. Thank you. You know, I got this bandana. And then on day 2, when you pushed off, I mean, you know, that really, really long just trail that's straight and there's no canopy anywhere. I mean, there's like bushes and small trees,
Sure.
but there's no canopy, no shade. It's just brutal.
Yeah.
And I'm skating out there, and I'm in. I unfortunately have skated by myself more than I've skated with groups. You know, in all these events, just because I can't keep up. But you know, I was out there. You're out there in the middle of nowhere, and you know, just the sun's beating on your ass, and you're just going. And then, hey, you know, nature calls, right? And I was like, man, I have to take a major freaking crap right now. There's no stopping. I was like, I have to do it. So I go into the bushes in there, and you know, there's nobody. You're in the middle of nowhere on this trail, and you're lucky to pass a biker, you know, bike rider. And so I just went off the trail and just took a major crap. The only thing I had was Callie's gym wrap. And so I just had to use it. I had to use it, and I discarded it. Unfortunately, I did discard it right there. I don't like throwing trash on the trails, but I kind of had to. It was fun. Later that day, I was saying, "Hey, Callie, I really want to thank you for that gym wrap. It really saved my ass." You know, and that's the story. You know, that's the story. And I don't know. Like I think the trail winner that year was the one that there was that lady with the rattlesnake or something like that. There was a piece of plywood, and this lady was like trying to flag down skaters to kill this rattlesnake with their skateboards or something like that. Just crazy. You know, crazy.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Then at the, you know, I don't know, there's just fun stories, man. You know, just like even like the ones that are off trail too, you know, and kind of what you see. And, you know, we've checked into some gnarly hotels, you know, along the way, just gnarly hotels, motels, whatever you want to call it. And, you know, those all share, you know, similar fates, I think, too. So
yeah, and like there was one hotel that like we used to book, and I remember looking it up now that me and Carlos are kind of working on, or mostly Carlos, and he sent me one of the hotels. I was like, dude, we cannot do this one. And like I looked it up, and it's like the picture is like the bed is there, and then like 6 inches off the bed is a hot tub shaped like a heart. Right. And like, it doesn't look very clean. It's got like all these like crusty bits, you know, like it's just like a weird color, you know. And it's like, dude, we cannot do that. Like, who the fuck knows what goes on there, you know?
Yeah, I mean, one of the I think it was Harrison maybe or somebody. Didn't they check into a room? There was like a crack pipe in the drawer.
Yeah.
There was, I mean, just stuff like that. Like, wow.
Yeah, it was like right next to the Bible. It was just like a
yeah. Anyway, sketchy.
Yeah, we have. No fear. We found better options now. There's like much better options actually. Yeah, and there's still that first hotel has always been good with the pool and everything.
The La Quinta.
Yeah, La Quinta. They've always been super cool.
Yeah, they got that Panera bread, right.
And then there's the Panera bread that's always been there too. Yeah, so people do recognize you, and that's another cool thing about some of these events that have been going on for as long as they have. Ladiga, right? You'll go through, and people will be like, "Oh, you're back! Like we saw you last year, or we didn't see you last year, right?" And because we skipped or whatever. But it's like they know of our presence. They think it's cool. Yeah. A lot of people think it's cool, you know.
Yeah.
Same thing with Miami. At the end of the ceremony or beginning of the ceremony this year, the representative from the track was like, yeah, we really like you guys. We really want you to come back. It seems like it's not a one person decision, or maybe it is someone at the top makes the decision, but it's like multiple factors factor into whether or not we can do it. But, our presence is positive, and that's all we can really account for. Right. So great story though about the gym rap. I hope Callie hears this, because I remember the whole gym rap thing. That was like, one of her things. And I remember getting one at Ladiga.
I guess it was just meant for your head, but whatever.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't meant for the purpose you used it for. But
hey, I'll tell you what, though, that was a big, valuable lesson to me. And, Miami, you don't need to carry anything around with you. But like at Minnesota and at Ladiga, I packed TP, man. You just never know.
Yeah.
You never know when you're going to need to do something like that. And then, your body goes through like this change out there, both from the heat and, depending on your hydration and stuff like that. And you just never know what your body's going to do, man. I guess I kind of know now, and I'm prepared for it. But luckily, for me, I haven't had to bust it out on any other of these events. But, you just prepare yourself for it these days.
For sure. Going to make it to Ladiga this year, are you?
No, I don't think so. I was thinking about it. I was thinking about doing like a mid-year kind of event to kind of get me back in shape, but I'm still pretty busy getting ready for an exhibition in July. And then I actually bought tickets to go see the first inaugural No Values Punk Festival in East LA. So I'm heading out there. It's in the beginning portion of June. I'm going to head out, and I mean, the lineup is incredible, man. I mean, Suicidal Tendencies is going to be there.
Wow.
Misfits, I think, is top bill.
Really?
But like all these other bands, like Black Flag will be there.
Nice.
Cro-Mags.
Cro-Mags.
Yeah, Cro-Mags is going to be there. The Exploited. There's like there's so many bands that you're not going to be able to see them all in one day. It's just a 1-day event too, which is pretty crazy. But TSOL I think is on the bill, and just quite a good group of quite a good lineup. So I'm going to try to hit some of these bands that I haven't seen, and and just have a blast. So.
Yeah, it sounds like you got quite a lot on your plate and some pretty fun stuff. So
yeah, I got one more really funny, like I guess you can say it's a skate story in a way, but it's with Callie. I think that it relates to Black Flag. And we went to the Black Flag show in Portland. I think it was 2019. And we met up and we went together, and I met with another pair of friends and whatever a little bit later. But we were, Callie and I, we started pounding beers and stuff like pretty early. And we were like on our way to the Bossa Nova in Portland, and we were crossing over one of the bridges. Coming our direction was Mike Valley, pro skater, and he's the current lead singer of Black Flag.
I was going to say, right? He's going the opposite direction of
but I guess he was just taking a walk and having a cup of coffee. So I was like, Mike, and like holy shit, it's Mike. And he stopped and we chatted for a minute. I asked Callie to take a photo of us, right? So I was like, hey, Callie, can you take a photo of me and Mike V? And so we're sitting there and she takes a photo and that kind of thing. I asked her, like, do you want a photo? And she's like, no, it's okay, whatever. So I talked to Mike for a little bit longer, talked a little bit about Japan and whatever. And then he goes about his way, and then we're walking to the Bossa Nova. I forget how it came out, but like she thought that was my friend Mike that we were meeting later that day, right? But like that we were meeting, and she like whatever. And then I'm like,
Do you
no, that
want
was
a picture with him?
I was like, that was Mike V from Black Flag, the singer to Black Flag. And she's like, no fucking way. Unbelievable. And I'll tell you, I was laughing hysterically at this. And it was just funny that, I mean, she kind of was like, I can't believe that you didn't tell me that was Mike V from Black Flag. And I was like, I thought you already knew. I thought whatever. And so we go and we're at the show and we had a blast. I mean, we were there right up by the stage, and we were both going through the pit at times. It was just an absolute blast.
Mm-hmm.
And the show ends and we're like, man, let's go get something to eat. Let's go grab a pizza or something like that. Because right next to the Bossa Nova, there's this great pizza place. And so we went in there and we got a couple of slices and we're sitting there at this table eating pizza. And Mike walks in after the show. He walks in and then he sees us and then he gets a slice of pizza and he's sitting down eating with us. And I was finally able to get a picture of Callie and Mike together. And I don't know if you saw it, but that's the picture of Mike and Callie. And so she was all happy that she finally, it worked out, right?
Yeah.
Like even though we had this like kind of a rare encounter, and she missed it, she eventually was able to meet him and say hi. And I mean, we were pretty toasted at that time, but we still remember that event. It was great. Mm-hmm. It was just a great event. So.
That's so cool. We ran into him twice. Weird. I have another friend who ran into Mike V. He sounds like he's like a really nice guy. Like you can kind of just chat with him. Yeah. He's really open.
He's a super cool guy, down to earth, super cool guy. Yeah. After shows too, after his show, he'll jump into the audience and go around and take pictures with everybody. I mean, he's just super cool out there, so.
Nice. We were kind of talking about art before, right? And this is a distance skateboarding podcast, but you have a cool idea that kind of ties the two together, actually, and that's some sort of Miami art show idea. Do you want to talk about that? Do you have like?
Yeah, I've always skateboarding and art for me do kind of coexist, right? I mean. I have I'm a collector of old skateboard decks and even new ones that come out and whatever. So I have skateboards on the wall. I've done artwork on skateboards, and then I had done some pots not too long ago. Well, I did some drawings first. I did some drawings and I did this thing called the GOAT series, where greatest of all time, and I drew I drew a thing of Andy and then also Joe Mazzone. I don't know. I thought it was pretty cool. I gave them both the drawings. I mean, I just sent it to them and said, you can have it. And I went ahead and converted those to digital overglazed decals. And I made some pots. So I made some like these crock pots. And I put the decal, and you have to fire these on. So the pots are already fired, and then you fire them again to like 1800 degrees, and it just kind of melts onto the pot. It looks pretty cool. Yeah. So I did this artwork. So skateboarding and artwork kind of go together. A lot of my work that I do is skateboard themed, so like it's sort of like this interdisciplinary approach towards making work. So I thought it'd be cool. I've been thinking about this for a few years. You just kick it around. Like, yeah, wouldn't it be cool if we did like a skater only art show? Skater only, maybe skateboard themed. Yeah. But at least all artists that are skaters, or whatever. I'm sure there's, if you look at the pool of people that come out, 100 people, I'm sure there's 10, 15, 20 people that are creative. I'd say even more. I'd say we're all creative to some degree. Yeah. And wouldn't it be great if we did something? And, that was it a couple of years ago. And I've talked to a couple of people about it, and, So myself, like I would bring down some, prints that I've done. And for the record, I roll ink on some skateboard decks. Like they gotta be flat in order to do this. But like that, I had that subsonic Illuminati that I rolled ink on, and I made a couple of prints out of it, and that
cool.
board to me has historic value because that was the board that I did 200 miles on, and the only time I ever did 200 miles. And so it's kind of cool to have that as as an archive, and also as artwork that I can put up on the walls. And between that and like doing some ceramic pieces and incorporating some some of my drawings into them and that kind of thing, I'd love to be able to show that along with other skaters that may have something that they want to get out there. I just thought it'd be kind of cool, maybe do it, in conjunction with the Miami Ultra, and people at one of these after race events, we can have some fun and look at some artwork, maybe another opportunity to raise some money for the IDSA or whatever, or just do something. I think you need at least one full year, probably a year and a half to plan something like this out, and get the word out. But
yeah, I know what you mean. Like logistics are a big thing when it comes to this kind of stuff. Cause like you said, there's plenty of people who are creative and could put out art, but even to create their art, like for example, right? If you're training for ultra skate, that's already taking time out of your day. You have to do everything else you have to do. And then you have to make sure you have a little bit of an exhibition for, the art show, right? So like it could be a lot just on the people, even if they have the capacity or the ability, they might not have the capacity to actually do it. So yeah, I like what you said though. Like some things just take time. It doesn't have to happen right away. Just talking about it now is a good way to get things going.
And maybe even starting out like small, right? Like where maybe we can find 2 or 3 artists.
Yeah.
That can commit to doing 4 or 5 pieces and, go from there and just have something that is out there on display and whatever. I'm not so much interested in making money. I mean, that's really eventually in my life, I'm going to have to start making money selling pots. I don't do that enough. Like I've given more pots away than I've actually sold, pottery. But, as I transition into doing this more full time, in the next year or so, I will start, making money. But events like that, like it's not about making money. It's more about like just, building community to me. Like I'm more interested in the building of community and bringing more people in and stuff like that. They do that. Like some of like Lance Mountain from Pal Peralta, he's an artist. And he's actually had like exhibitions and stuff before of just his artwork, and he's been part of group shows too. And I think they're cool. I mean, these are mostly like your street skate artists and stuff like that, but I've seen some really cool skateboard themed artwork out there, and just, it'd be great to kind of grow off of that. We could do something with it,
Yeah, it would be really cool. You mentioned like doing this at Skatebird or something, like tying into like these after ultra skate activities. That'd be so cool if there was a little like exhibition gallery or whatever set up somewhere. Or maybe not. I don't know if Skatebird's the right place or not. I don't know, but that's logistics, right?
Just as a disclaimer, I mean, like, it'd be, you think about it, of course, with their permission and if they think it's a good idea. But I think it was James Peters, the godfather of long distance skateboarding, is what we call him.
Yeah.
But I remember he was one of the guys early on that helped me get into the sport as well. He made this cool comment that I will never forget. I like what he said. He referred to all of us on the track as artists. that all the artists out on the track, have different goals and stuff like that. But that's the word that he used to describe the skaters. And I thought that was kind of cool, I mean, because we're all kind of artists in our own way. You go out there and you get on your board and you're going out there. The thing I love most about long distance skating is it does tend to put you out in some really beautiful, peaceful places. And you push the effort into moving forward. And man, I have seen some beautiful places on my board,
Yeah.
and Ladiga and Minnesota, both of those races put you out into isolation to some degree, and you're in some beautiful country. And so to me, that's the canvas that we create for ourselves when we're out there pushing on a board, and you're able to kind of take it all in. I want to be part of the natural world more and more as I get older. And one of the reasons I want to transition into making pottery full time and other work is it requires me to be part of the natural world. I'm out there getting local materials, and I use local clay whenever I can. And then I use things like crab shells in my pots, and you can get, moss that you can turn into ash and mix in with glazes and things like that. And I fire with wood. So I don't cut trees down. I don't want to do that. I like to use like reclaimed wood. I like to use stuff that's already blown down. And if I cut a tree down for any reason here on my property, I'm going to buck it up and use it.
Yeah.
And put it to good use, make good energy out of it. Well, skating to me is the same thing as of being part of the natural world. I love the idea of using your own energy to propel. You're not using any electricity. You're not using fuel or anything. It's your own energy. When you're not on really bumpy roads, it's relatively quiet and peaceful. I love that sound the urethane makes on the road when you're like just kind of smoothly carving, and or even when the trail is just a little bit wet, that little bit of that water that kind of bounces up and hits your board maybe, or things like that. And then the wind, and then just looking around, that to me is really putting yourself into the natural world. And so it's really what I want to do with my life. As I continue to get older, I hope I skate till I die. It's getting harder. My bones are hurting a little bit more,
Sure,
than they were 10 years ago and 20 years ago. But I really want to continue skating and whatnot. So I don't know how I ended up talking about this, but it just kind of came to mind.
Yeah, no, I asked you about the art stuff, and that's how it goes, dude. I think that's a really cool perspective, right? And
it's healthy, man, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's totally healthy. When you're on a board and you're pushing, you're not drinking, you're not doing drugs, you're not partying, you're not spending money, you're not doing things that maybe you wish you weren't doing, you're not a couch potato watching TV. You're out there, man. It's healthy, and it's good for your I think not just your heart but your head. And that's just, and it helps me, Max. When I'm out there, and I haven't done it enough. I haven't pushed enough miles, recently, but it does help me to help me focus, clear my head, and I can come back to my studio and I can sit at the wheel, and I can, I'm just more focused and deliberate on what I'm trying to accomplish. And
it's like a magic carpet ride. So you just kind of like go out there and you coast through. You said the way you said, like with the natural world, right? Like becoming, closer to that. I think that's huge. A huge part of gaining that clarity. When you come back from a ride and you're like, okay, now I can focus on the thing I was going to do and continue on. And I haven't actually skated enough lately myself. Like the past few weeks, it's been lacking, and like I can feel it.
Yeah.
Once you do it enough, you kind of need to keep doing it. Otherwise, you start to feel like something's missing. Like a malaise.
Yeah, you could tell when I know that I haven't skated enough when like I'm out there on the board, and like the first time I push with my left foot, like I almost fall off my board. I'm like, wow, I need to regain this muscle memory again. And it doesn't take long, but
yeah. Like you go out, do a few pushes, and like you kind of wobble a little bit because like the trucks are looser than you expected, or some weird thing where it's like, oh yeah, that's how my board's set up.
Yeah.
So we covered a lot. We got through a lot of stuff. Is there anything else you want to talk about that we didn't cover?
Well, I always like to. I think it's just important to acknowledge the skateboarding community, as a whole. And I'm not the guy that's gone out there and has done 300 miles, nor will I ever get to that goal. There's the skate family is a big mix of people who are just, phenomenal athletes, right? Just absolutely phenomenal athletes, all the way to the people, that are going out to Miami and busting their ass trying to hit 100 miles because it's everything to that person. Mm-hmm. It's just a wonderful community to be in. And, I'm lucky if I'm somewhere in the middle of that, right? Where I can, maybe meet my goal. I would like to skate 200 miles again sometime. I mean, that's my aspirational goal, is to go to Miami and be able to do that again. And I haven't, really come close to that the last couple of times being out there. Acknowledgement to such a great community. And like I listened to all your podcasts, and there's people in there I have not physically met in person. Some of them we follow each other and we kind of know of each other. Mm-hmm. And then there's other people I've never heard of before and fascinated by their story. So I just have a lot of respect for everybody that goes out there and pushes on the board, comes out to these events and reaches out and wants to be part of a bigger community. Shout out to some of the greats. I mean, I sent you that photo of me and Ian White. And I mean, I'll tell you, that guy's a beast, man. And I think he's in the 60 plus category now. And it just absolutely blows my mind to see somebody of that age that's going out there and grinding as hard as he does out on the pavement. And then, of course, all these guys that are hitting 300. Adam, isn't he the first guy that's done it back to back? Is that true or not?
I don't know if that's true or not. I think Joe did that. I mean, even that, man, back to back 300 miles is just phenomenal. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's incredible. Honestly,
mind-boggling
to do it 2 years in a row is crazy.
Yeah. I hope he makes it a third. I hope he's out there and does it a third time. I mean, and as we all know, the wind can shift in Miami and make that almost impossible, mm-hmm. And or the rain. I don't know if you're out there in that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
the rain event. Holy cow, is that crazy? But no, I just wanted a shout out to the skate community, the skate family. It's kept me going over the years since I've been involved with long distance skating, and it's motivated me to always get back on my board. Doesn't matter how good you are or how many miles you can go. Mm-hmm. I think it's just the attitude and the love that you have for each other, love and respect, that you have for each other, I think is great. Kind of goes back to there's when you finish an event like La Diga together, it's like instant family, right? Like you're just instantly connected to one another, and it's hard to describe, but you've all been through kind of hell together, or in some cases, I think some of you guys just push right through it. It's like, it's nothing, right? But it's a hard event, and you become close, you become family. So yeah. Aaron Mohammadi down in Texas, I love what he's doing every year. He's got his skate shop, he's out there at all the events, and
he's throwing his own event now. So
yeah, I see his posts, and it's like, man, this guy skates all the time. And like, what a great role model that is, mm-hmm. To just go out there and skate all the time like that. Anyway, that's really it, Max. And I appreciate your podcast. I think this is a wonderful thing you're doing for the long distance community, long distance skate family. I hope people get more involved with the IDSA. I hope we get more. I hope the sport continues to grow. Again, what Aaron's doing down in Texas and trying to get a event going and have it be more mainstream, I think is wonderful. I heard a rumor he might look into doing it again in October or something like that.
Yeah, he's playing around with when to do it because the weather there is kind of weird. Sometimes it's super hot in the fall.
Yeah. So, I mean, I might try to, he's a guy that I would go out and support.
Definitely.
If I can make the trip, I'd like to support him and what he's doing and stuff like that. So I hope there's more events. I want to see. It's too bad. Like the Pacific Northwest used to be the kind of like the epicenter for some of these smaller races, but none of them exist anymore. So hope to see some come back. Yeah,
wouldn't that be something if the circuit, the race series came back and like there was stuff happening all over the country, but there's stuff happening internationally still, and like it's great. It's on the up, I would say. So yeah, cool. Great shout out to the community though. I think you're right. That's what keeps us going. That's what drives this whole thing. So
yeah,
absolutely. Where are we going to see you next? 2025 Ultra Skate? Is that it?
Yeah. I mean, most likely it depends on what I can do for maybe get to an event. Like I said, I had 2 big exhibitions this year for my pottery. The big ones in December at the River Sea Gallery in Astoria, Oregon. I'm going to focus on that. I have to cut a lot of wood and get ready to fire my kiln a couple times and whatnot. But I will be on my board. And yes, I do want to go on the record and say I'll be at Miami in 25. Love that event. Do another fundraiser. And then, of course, love to see anybody that comes even close to coming out my neck of the woods, and always will love to push my board with you. I'll make that a priority. So just reach out.
Yeah, I'm due for a trip out there, honestly. So I might have to come visit you.
Yeah. And bring your partner.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll both go. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. She'd love that. I haven't been to like the Portland area in so long, and I used to love going there. The food is amazing, and like just all the trail systems in the, both Washington and Oregon are really cool.
Yeah,
so we can just skate all the time. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Any social media to plug here?
I just have. I got rid of my Facebook quite a few years ago. I just couldn't stomach the content that I was seeing.
Yeah.
So I got rid of it, and then I have an Instagram account. It's Hafu Potter, HAFUPOTTER at Hafu Potter. Hafu is Japanese term for half Japanese, half something else.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I like the Hafu Potter name.
Cool.
It's kind of who I am.
Yeah.
So reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to anybody about fundraising if they want to do that. I'd love to talk about artwork. It's part of my soul. It's who I am, and go from there. Or if you want to talk about kind of a mediocre, middle of the pack skater, what they do to kind of get through things and events, and how do I train? I'm happy to tell you what I do. In my eyes, we're all great.
I wouldn't downplay your achievements either. 200 club member, like 200 miles is a lot. It's not easy. Like you've done it. You've got some knowledge to share for sure.
Yeah.
You've been to Ladiga. You know what it's like.
It's brutal.
Yeah. I really appreciate you offering yourself as a resource for both that and fundraising ideas, art. And thanks for sharing and coming on. I really appreciate this.
Yeah. Hope to see you soon, Max.
Awesome. Thanks, Randy.
Thank you. Have a good one.